Today we're going to be building an L-shaped desk with LEDs with some pretty rough lumber. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is drill out some holes for our dowels using our doweling jig. If you don't have one of these, they're pretty cheap at Harbor Freight. We're going to test fit the dowel real quick, make sure it goes in, and since it does, we're just going to keep on going right along. Now we're going to go ahead and pound our dowels in, now that we've got our boards glued up. And fit our boards together. These are a little warped, so they'll need a little bit extra love on this one. This was pretty much free lumber from Home Depot, so not exactly the best quality wood. But that's the point of the project. Now we're just going to go ahead and clamp it down so that way the glue will have a chance to harden. We'll let this sit overnight. I'm just going to go ahead and put it up here for the time being. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the drawer, so we're just going to go ahead and put some glue down on this, making sure we get some down in the dowel holes. And drop in some dowels. And then simply put it together just like we did the other. And again, we're going to go ahead and clamp this down as well because we want to make sure it has a good seal. A few extra clamps would not be a bad idea on this part. Now we're going to go ahead and sand down the tops so this way they're nice and plain. And get rid of all the high spots on there. We don't own a planer, so this is the next best alternative. This is about 80 grit sandpaper, just to give you an idea. And these boards are really, really warped. Now we're just going to go ahead and trim the sides, just using a ruler as a straight edge. This is basically the layout of how the frame will look before we get done cutting down all the lumber. Just going to put some pocket holes in here now that we cut down all the lumber. As you can see, that leaves a nice smooth hole to go and put the screws through. A little bit of finishing sanding to make it nice and smooth, because we don't want to have any rough edges on there from the belt sander that we were using earlier. And this is basically what it came out looking like. You can see it's really, really super smooth, and when you touch it, it feels great. So these are kind of the bolts and L brackets that we wound up using in the project. We only wound up using 2 of the large bolts. The rest of it we decided to get rid of because we changed the project a little bit last minute. So this is basically what the frame looks like with all the legs attached to it. So you get kind of an idea of what it looks like underneath. So we're just going to go ahead and countersink some screw holes here to go and attach the legs. Then we're going to drill out the big hole to put the big bolts through for the centerpiece. And this needed a little bit of finessing. Now we're going to go ahead and draw an X in the center of this here using our ruler to find the center of the leg. We're going to drill a little hole here in the center. And put in our little adjustable leg. So that way you can level it if you need to later. We're just going to go ahead and put the screws into the legs so that way it's ready to be stood up. This is basically what it looks like on the interior legs. The exterior legs actually have 3 screws. This is a preview of what the table will look like once it's done. We're going to go ahead and get the sliders put on for the drawer. So we're just getting the screws in for that. We've already taken the slider apart at this point. This is the other side. This is the part that the slider will go into. So basically the sides. And a little bit of wipe on poly on the wood so that way it stays good and doesn't wind up cracking or rotting later on. Now we're going to go ahead and install the L brackets for the top of the desk, making sure they're nice and level. We already drilled pilot holes ahead of time so that way we could just screw right in. That's nice and steady. Now we're just going to go ahead and check and make sure the alignment of the tabletop actually works with the frame properly. This can be a bit fidgety, especially on these custom projects with rough wood, but for the most part this seemed to come out pretty okay. So we're going to go ahead and glue right along the track that's going to be on the bottom, filling up the holes with a bit of wood glue. And then we'll do the same thing to the desk. We'll put wood glue on the desk side so that way it's glued in several spots. Just make sure you tap your dowels in real good so that way they've got a good hold. And just tap this right into the bottom dowels on the bottom of the desk. There you go. Nice and firm. We're We're just going to go ahead and flip this the correct direction here so we can start installing the screws on the bottom of the desk to hold the tabletop part on. And we found that the screws were a little long and they'd go right through the tabletop surface as we're showing here. So what we wound up doing was putting a little spacer that keeps the screw from going all the way in. Found these down at Ace. They were a few cents a piece. They were pretty cheap. Nice, easy fix. So we're going to go ahead and drill the hole in the bottom of the desk for the pop-up socket that we have here. We used a board basically to make sure we didn't have blowout on the top. Didn't want to ruin the finish after we'd already went through all the poly and everything. And then we just simply drop it right in. And that's basically how it works. Pretty cool. We're just going to hot glue the IR sensor for the LEDs right here on the side next to the keyboard. Nice safe place for it and it doesn't get cluttered. And then we're going to go ahead and put the controller right onto the leg. Again, using hot glue. And we're just going to go ahead and hot glue down the LEDs, because if you've ever used the tape on the back of those, you know that it's not very reliable. So we wanted to have something that would actually stay on and keep on there strong. So that's basically how we did it. This seemed like a pretty good way of handling it. A little bit of finger burning here in the process. And this is what the final looked like. And here's some more pictures of what the desk looks like from some different angles. Came out looking pretty nice. Hey, we hope that you enjoyed our video on the DIY LED L-shaped desk. We had a lot of fun building it, and we had a lot of fun watching us build it. Maybe you can even go out and build your own. It's pretty cheap, actually. I think we spent maybe about $100 on like the whole thing, which for a full wood desk, that's way cheap. So might be a good investment. But in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. It lets us know that we're doing an awesome job. In the meantime, you guys have a great day.